Two cities, two labels, two completely different visions of what soul music should be. In Detroit, Gordy built a machine, polished, controlled, aimed directly at white America. He called it the sound of young America.
Mother, mother.
In Memphis, Stewart and Estelle Axton rented a converted movie theater for $100 a month. They didn't have a plan. They had a feeling. They called it Soulsville, USA. For 15 years, these two labels fought over the same artists, the same radio stations, the same chart positions, and the same definition of what black music was for. And in the middle of that war, 10 of the greatest voices in the history of American music were caught between forces bigger than any of them could survive. This is not just a rivalry between two record labels.
You make me feel.
This is the story of what happens when an industry built on black art uses the people who made that art as weapons against each other. Number 10, Booker T and the MGs, Stax. Before Otis Redding, before Isaac Hayes, before Sam and Dave or any of the names the world would come to know, there was the sound. And the sound came from 4 musicians who recorded in a converted movie theater in South Memphis. Booker T. Jones on organ, Steve Cropper on guitar, Louis Steinberg on bass, Al Jackson Jr. on drums. 2 of them were black, 2 of them were white. In Memphis in 1962, that was not a small thing. In Memphis in 1962, that was almost unthinkable. Green Onions was not planned. It was an accident. The MGs were waiting in the studio for a Stax vocal act that never showed up. So they started playing around, noodling, killing time. Someone hit record. The track they made in that idle afternoon went to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the R&B chart. It became one of the most recognizable instrumental recordings in the history of American music. Meanwhile, 40 miles north, Motown's Friday quality control meetings were deciding which carefully crafted, fully orchestrated pop songs would be released that week. The contrast was immediate and deliberate. Motown was a factory floor. Stax was an open door. Motown signed acts and built careers around image and radio. Stax let musicians walk in off the street. Booker T. Jones later told interviewers, "There was no dress code. There was no behavior code. There was just, is it good? Does it feel right?" That philosophy produced a sound that could not be manufactured. And for the first 3 years, it was winning. Number 9, Wilson Pickett, Stax Sessions.
I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour.
Wilson Pickett did not belong to Stax. He belonged to Atlantic Records, but Atlantic, who distributed Stax, sent him to Memphis to record. The idea was deliberate. Atlantic's Jerry Wexler understood something Gordy refused to accept. The raw, sweaty, unpolished energy of Memphis could do things to a singer that a Detroit production line never could.
I'm gonna wait till the storm come out.
Pickett walked into the Stax studio in May of 1965. He had already been recording for years with minimal success.
Oh, yeah, in the midnight hour.
He was frustrated. He was hungry. He had an idea for a rhythm, a groove he'd been hearing in his head.
So, in the midnight hour.
He demonstrated it to guitarist Steve Cropper by doing a dance called the jerk backstage before the session. Cropper watched him, then sat down and wrote the chord changes around the movement.
Yeah. All right.
They recorded In the Midnight Hour in one day. It went to #1 on the R&B chart. It reached number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Nobody around, baby, just you and I.
In the same summer that Motown was dominating the pop charts with the Supremes and the Four Tops, Stax was producing something physically different. Rawer, looser, drenched in sweat and Southern gospel.
Yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am.
Pickett later left the Stax environment to record at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, yet another hub that Atlantic was using to counter Motown's dominance.
See that twinkle in your eye.
He had more hits, but he never forgot where the sound started. He told interviewers late in his life, "Memphis gave me my voice back.
I know it really.
I'd been singing for years and nobody heard me. I walked into that building and they heard me immediately." Number 8, Carla Thomas, Stax. Carla Thomas was 16 years old when she became the first female artist to chart on Stax Records. Her father was Rufus Thomas, one of the label's earliest signings and one of Memphis's most beloved performers. Carla recorded "Gee Whiz, Look at His Eyes" in the converted Capitol Theater on McLemore Avenue while she was still in high school. The song reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1961. It reached number 10 on the R&B chart. It caught the attention of Atlantic Records' Jerry Wexler, who came to Memphis and saw black and white musicians recording together the same room in Memphis, Tennessee, in 1961. Ed had to sneak through the freight elevator of his hotel to have a business meeting with the Stax team because blacks and whites could not be seen congregating together in public in that city. And yet, inside that theater, there was integration, creative integration, human integration. Carla Thomas went on to be called the Queen of Memphis Soul. She recorded duets with Otis Redding. She recorded albums that held their own against anything Motown was releasing. But while Motown's female artists, Diana Ross, Mary Wells, Martha Reeves, were being groomed, styled, coached, and packaged for maximum mainstream crossover appeal, Carla Thomas was given something different. She was given the truth, the raw, unvarnished Memphis truth that made her records sound like they came from somewhere real rather than somewhere manufactured. She watched Stax collapse in 1975 without receiving the royalties she was owed.
Look at his eyes.
Quick one, 90% of you are not subscribed to this channel. Subscribing is free, always free. If this video taught you something, if it made you feel something, tap subscribe right now. That's all it takes.
Number 7, Sam and Dave, Stax. Sam Moore and Dave Prater were not Stax artists, not technically. They were signed to Atlantic Records, who loaned them to Stax to record. That distinction would later destroy them. At Stax, they were paired with Isaac Hayes and David Porter, the greatest songwriting team the label ever produced. Together, they created a string of records that defined what soul music meant to a generation. Hold On, I'm Coming, number 1, R&B, 1966. When Something Is Wrong with My Baby, 1967. Soul Man, number 1, R&B, number 2, Pop, 1967. The title Soul Man itself came from Isaac Hayes watching television footage of the Detroit riots, the same Detroit where Berry Gordy was running Motown, and seeing black residents paint the word soul on their doors to protect their businesses from being burned. A song born from the ashes of Berry Gordy's own city became one of Stax's defining anthems. Then in 1968, everything fell apart. Stax severed its distribution deal with Atlantic. Sam and Dave's masters, every record they'd made at Stax, belonged to Atlantic. Not to Sam and Dave, not to Stax. The duo that had sweated and screamed their way through some of the greatest soul recordings ever made lost the right to their own catalog in a handshake deal they were never even told about. They spent the rest of their careers fighting over money, credit, and royalties until the partnership collapsed entirely. According to Sam Moore, they did not speak to each other off stage for nearly 13 years. Dave Prater died in a car crash in 1988. Still performing, still touring, long after the money had stopped coming. Number 6, Otis Redding, Stax.
Sitting in the morning.
In the summer of 1967, Otis Redding had just performed at the Monterey Pop Festival, the same festival where Jimi Hendrix lit his guitar on fire.
I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide.
Redding walked onto that stage in front of a predominantly white audience that had never fully heard him. He destroyed it. Rolling Stone described the performance as one of the greatest festival sets in rock history.
Frisco Bay, 'cause I've had nothing to do.
Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones was watching from the side of the stage. Jimi Hendrix was watching. They were both shaking their heads. Redding was on the verge of crossing over in a way that threatened Motown's dominance over white pop audiences. The market Berry Gordy had spent a decade cultivating.
Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of a bay.
He flew back from the festival and went straight to a houseboat in Sausalito, California. He had an idea for a song. Yeah, he started writing on napkins and hotel paper. In November 1967, he came to Stax in Memphis and recorded it with guitarist Steve Cropper. He didn't have a third verse. He whistled instead, planning to come back and finish it.
In my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone.
On December 7th, 1967, he laid down the final overdubs. 3 days later, he was dead.
Watching the tide roll away. Ooh.
His twin-engine Beechcraft plane plunged into Lake Monona near Madison, Wisconsin, at 3:28 in the afternoon. He was 26 years old.
I'm sitting on a dock of a bay, wasting time.
Stax Records chief Jim Stewart didn't want to release the song. He had doubts about the production. He thought the whistling was unfinished.
Gonna come my way, So I'm just gonna sit on the dock.
Steve Cropper went into the studio alone and added the sounds of seagulls and crashing waves as Redding had requested and forced the release.
Away. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay.
Yeah, sitting on. The Dock of the Bay reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on March 16, 1968.
Still remains the same. I can do what 10 people can.
It stayed there for 5 weeks. It was the first posthumous #1 single in United States chart history. And in losing him, Stax lost everything.
Miles I roam just to make this dock my home.
Within months of Redding's death, Stax also discovered that their entire catalog, every master recording from 1960 to 1967, belonged to Atlantic Records through a handshake distribution deal that had never been properly documented. They had given their entire archive away and hadn't known it. Number 5, Isaac Hayes, Stax. Isaac Hayes came to Stax as a session musician. He played piano in the studio. He helped stack boxes in the warehouse. He co-wrote some of the greatest songs in the catalog without ever receiving production credits on the records. When Stax severed its deal with Atlantic in 1968 and lost its entire back catalog in the process, the label was, by most accounts, finished. Al Bell, the young black executive who had become Stax's co-owner, had one move left. He called Isaac Hayes into his office and offered him something no Stax artist had ever been given. Total creative freedom. No hit requirements, no radio format, no rules. Just make what you want. What Hayes made was Hot Buttered Soul in 1969. 4 tracks, no song under 5 minutes. His version of Walk On By ran nearly 12 minutes. Nobody at any radio station knew what to do with it. It sold over 3 million copies. Then, in 1971, director Gordon Parks asked Hayes to score a movie called Shaft. Hayes had no film composing experience. He didn't even read music in the traditional sense. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences tried to disqualify his entry for Best Original Song on the grounds that he couldn't notate the music himself. Quincy Jones personally argued Hayes' case. Theme from Shaft won the Academy Award for Best Original Song in 1972.
You see, this cat Shaft is a bad mother.
Isaac Hayes became the first African American to win that award in a non-acting category, beating every white composer in Hollywood from a converted movie theater in South Memphis. By 1974, Hayes was $6 million in debt. The same bank that held loans for Stax artists held loans for Hayes personally.
What I'm talking about, Sharon?
He sued Stax for $5.3 million. Stax folded before the case could be resolved. By the time the bankruptcy proceedings ended in 1977, Hayes had lost his home, his property, and the rights to all future royalties from the music he had written and performed. The most celebrated songwriter and performer in Stax history walked out of the building with nothing. Number 4, the Bar-Kays, Stax. Most people remember the Bar-Kays as casualties. The young musicians who died alongside Otis Redding when his plane went down on December 10th, 1967. Phelan Jones, Jimmy King, Ron Caldwell, Carl Cunningham. They were teenagers. Only 2 survived. James Alexander had taken a commercial flight because there wasn't enough room on Redding's Beechcraft. He was in Milwaukee, and when he got the news, trumpet player Ben Cawley woke up as the plane was falling and unbuckled his seatbelt. He wasn't sure why. That reflex saved his life. Everyone else on board died on impact. Before the crash, the Bar-Kays had released Soul Finger in 1967, a jubilant, chaotic, horn-driven dance record that reached number 3 on the R&B chart and became one of the most joyful recordings in the Stax catalog. The contrast between what that record sounds like and what happened to the men who made it is almost impossible to sit with. Cawley and Alexander rebuilt the Bar-Kays from scratch after the crash. They kept the name, they kept recording. They went on to have a second career as a funk act in the 1970s, hitting the charts again with Too Hot to Stop and Shake Your Rump to the Funk. But they carried the weight of that lake in Wisconsin for the rest of their lives. Cawley returned to Madison in 2007, 40 years after the crash, and stood at the memorial plaque on Monona Terrace and sang Dock of the Bay as a tribute. He said afterward, "You never stop seeing their faces." Number 3, the Staple Singers, Stax. The Staple Singers were gospel royalty before they ever walked through the doors of Stax Records. Roebuck, Pops. Staples and his children, Mavis, Cleotha, Yvonne, and Purvis, had been recording gospel music since the 1950s. Ain't nobody worried. Martin Luther King Jr. had personally asked Pop Staples to perform at civil rights rallies. Bob Dylan fell in love with Pops's guitar style and called him one of the most important musicians he had ever seen. When Stax signed them in 1968 and asked them to shift from gospel to mainstream R&B, the decision was not without pain. But what they created in that transition became some of the most important music of the 1970s. I'll Take You There was recorded in 1971 and released in 1972. Mavis Staples' voice on that record is one of the most commanding performances in the entire catalog of popular music. The song reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 1 week. It was number 1 on the R&B chart for 5 weeks. It was written by Stax co-owner Al Bell. A song about a place where no one is crying, no one is hurting, no one is fighting. He wrote it while watching Stax fall apart around him. While the money was running out, while the bank was circling, while the catalog was bleeding away, he wrote a song about a place beyond all of that. And Mavis Staples sang it like she'd already been there. When Stax went bankrupt in 1975, the Staples Singers were owed royalties that the label could not pay. Pop Staples kept performing until his death in 2000. Mavis Staples, now in her 80s, is still performing today, still carrying the song, still taking people there. Number 2, A.L. Green, High Records / Motown rival. Al Green did not record for Stax. He did not record for Motown. He recorded for High Record, a Memphis label just blocks from the Stax building, with producer Willie Mitchell. And his story belongs in this rivalry because of what it represents. While Motown and Stax were at war, High Records produced something neither of them could replicate. Al Green was born in Forest City, Arkansas, and arrived in Memphis in the late 1960s. A city where the rivalry between the two great soul machines had defined every conversation about black music for a decade. High Records offered a third path, warmer than Motown, more sensual than Stax, something that existed in the space between the two empires. Let's Stay Together was released in January 1972. It reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 1 week. It spent 5 weeks at number 1 on the R&B chart. Rolling Stone ranked it number 44 on the list of the 500 greatest songs ever made. Willie Mitchell and Al Green recorded the song in 4 takes on a Wednesday afternoon. Mitchell later said it was the easiest session he ever ran. Al walked in, Mitchell told one interviewer, and it was already done in his head.
I wanna know and turn around and make.
Al Green eventually left music entirely in 1980 to become a pastor in Memphis. He returned to secular music decades later, but never lost the ministry.
That to me.
Today, he splits his time between the pulpit and the stage, carrying a voice that both Motown and Stax would have destroyed, trying to shape into something it was never meant to be. Number 1, Marvin Gaye, Motown, versus Otis Redding, Stax. The rivalry, the artists themselves were fighting. This is where the rivalry becomes personal, because at its deepest level, the war between Stax and Motown was a war between two philosophies of what black music was for.
Mother, mother.
Berry Gordy believed soul music should be polished, crossover ready, palatable to white radio, safe enough to be played in living rooms where people of all colors might be sitting. Jim Stewart and the Stax ethos believed soul music should be raw, honest, unfiltered, a direct expression of black life in America without the commercial softening.
To bring some loving, oh.
Both philosophies produced genius. Both philosophies destroyed people in the process. Marvin Gaye was trapped inside Gordy's machine for over a decade, told to record love songs, forbidden from making political music.
Come on, man.
His most important work blocked and shelved. He wrote What's Going On? In 1970, partly as a response to the world Stax had already been addressing, Vietnam, poverty, urban decay, the same subjects that Otis Redding had been singing about in his own grittier, raw Memphis way. Gordy called What's Going On the worst thing he had ever heard. He refused to release it. Gaye went on strike. When it was finally released in 1971 without Gordy's full blessing, it became the fastest-selling single in Motown history.
Simply goes out every.
Rolling Stone now ranks it the greatest album of all time. But here is the most devastating fact in this entire story. In 1967, At the same moment, What's Going On was still a decade away. Otis Redding was recording Dock of the Bay 3 days before his death. Both men were reaching for the same thing, and both men were being suppressed by the machines around them. One died before he could finish the song. One had to go on strike to release it. And in between them, the industry built on their genius took what it could use and discarded what it couldn't control. Stax went bankrupt in 1975. Motown moved to Los Angeles. The sound of young America and the sound of Memphis both fell silent in their original forms within a decade of each other. But the music survived. Both of them. All of them.